Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, September 7th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. New fallout tonight involving that viral video allegedly showing a white campus officer using a knee to the neck to restrain a black student involved in a fight. It happened at Valhalla High, and now community activists are demanding answers. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has our report.
The video has splattered across social media since it was first captured August 31st in the outdoor lunch court at Valhalla High School. You can clearly see two students in a fight. What's not clear is why one of the white campus supervisors allegedly ended up on the ground, restraining one of the young black girls with his knee.
Putting her stomach to the ground and putting his knee to the back or near the back of her neck. Where does he get the logic that that kind of action between a school supervisor and a child is okay?
Shane Harris and other community activists are demanding answers and information from the Grossmont Union High School District. Superintendent Teresa Kemper released a video response last week acknowledging the incident on the Valhalla campus, but will not say any more until an investigation is completed.
We know the female student involved in this incident is in foster care. We also know she has not returned to school. But because of confidentiality, any other information about her is being kept private.
Her parents are the County Board of Supervisors. That's who's entrusted with this young lady's safety. That's who should be talking right now.
San Diego County Board of Supervisors Chairman Nathan Fletcher knows where the buck stops when it comes to the safety of foster children. The county has almost 2,100 children in its care right now.
If folks that are involved in any security or law enforcement situation have not learned by now, you ought never put your knee on someone's head or neck. That is a problem. And as a county, we will look into this issue rigorously and do everything we can to ensure it doesn't happen again.
These community activists will meet with the district superintendent by the end of the week, while the campus supervisor involved remains on paid leave. MG Perez, KPBS News.
A record number of COVID deaths in one day. That's what a local hospital is reporting, and it comes as the county nears the 4,000 mark in pandemic deaths. Also tonight, 2.1 million San Diegans are now fully vaccinated. Here's KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman.
One of the region's largest healthcare providers is reporting a single-day COVID-19 death record.
From last Thursday till this morning, we've had 21 deaths. The highest was on Saturday with 6 deaths. That is just, I can't even describe what that feels like, knowing that these are all preventable deaths. 92% of our patients are not vaccinated, and we didn't have to be here again.
Dr. Ghazala Sharif is the chief medical officer at Scripps Health. She says as of Tuesday, their system is seeing 162 hospitalized COVID patients with 51 in the ICU.
As of this morning, we only have 7 staffed intensive care unit beds. So you forget COVID for a minute. If you're in a car accident or you have a heart attack, we have 7 beds that are staffed in the intensive care unit right now. So that's not a lot of beds. And it's not just Scripps, it's across the system.
Scripps is also at capacity with life-saving heart-lung bypass machines, and Sharif says they're also dealing with staffing issues.
Some people don't want to be in healthcare anymore. They had enough. We did this pandemic once. Why do we want to do it again? So they don't. And, people are getting tired. They don't want to pick up the extra shifts anymore that they did the first time around.
She says it's even difficult to find travel nurses who are willing to work right now, adding she's hoping not to see an increase in patients from the holiday weekend.
We just had the Labor Day weekend, and I saw a lot of people out there without their masks. Hospitalizations start usually 2 weeks later, and then a week after that, we get more intensive care unit admissions.
Scripps is also seeing a low number of breakthrough infections. Those are in people that are fully vaccinated. Of the 21 recent deaths, many had underlying medical conditions with ages ranging from 50 to 99 years old. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
For the latest on the pandemic and resources, check out the Tracking COVID-19 section at kpbs.org. And that includes details on vaccines, the latest case numbers, and our local reporting. You can get there by clicking the link on our homepage. A new workforce program is expected to prepare young people for career opportunities in San Diego. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more on how it works.
I began and completed an internship through their help and am now an official sales associate at my local Old Navy.
With a little bit of training and mentorship, Andrea Salazar was able to turn her internship into a paid job. It's a success story the mayor of San Diego is hoping to make possible for thousands across the county. He announced the launch of a new workforce development for young adults ages 16 to 24. The $1 million program funded by the city of San Diego will gear up young San Diegans with training and job opportunities.
For everyone who's claiming that there's not enough workers who are out there, we know that there's an untapped resource here in our young people.
With unemployment rates remaining high among young adults, Gloria says a program like this is needed to help young San Diegans build a future. The San Diego Zoo is one of the partners in the workforce program and has been instrumental in employing thousands of young people. Aida Rosa, the Chief Human Resources Officer at the zoo, says they have many entry-level opportunities available right now.
There are people in management positions now that got their first opportunity in those entry-level positions.
Salazar says she's looking forward to her future now that she's on the right path.
I thought it would just be the internship, but I actually ended up liking it. I'm more social, more eager to work, and even happy, that I got this opportunity.
She hopes the workforce development program will benefit people who are underserved.
Sometimes some people don't get the opportunities that they should, just like everybody else.
For those interested in applying to the program, you can visit workforce.org/get-a-job. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
As the recall election draws closer, some high-profile figures are displaying their support for Governor Gavin Newsom. The White House says President Biden is planning to come to California early next week, but that doesn't give a lot of time to campaign before Election Day on September 14th. The vast majority of votes will have already been cast early and through mail-in ballots.
It's Gavin Newsom versus a Republican, and other Democratic leaders and all the major Democratic candidates went along with that strategy. If Gavin Newsom wins, then that strategy paid off, because I think we can clearly see that the support here that Gavin Newsom is gaining seems to be people who really aren't satisfied with the other alternatives. But it's a big gamble. There's no plan B for Democrats. And if Gavin Newsom can't pull this one out, that strategy of leaving no Democratic mainstay on the replacement ballot and risking making it Gavin Newsom or nothing, that big gamble, if it doesn't pay off, will be a huge loss for Democrats in one of the nation's bluest states.
Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to join the governor for an event here in California tomorrow. We're learning more about what caused a U.S. Navy helicopter crash that killed 5 crew members. It happened on August 31st, about 60 nautical miles off the coast of San Diego. According to a naval report, the helicopter was landing on the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln when it experienced side-to-side vibrations. That caused the main rotor to hit the flight deck and then knock the helicopter over the side of the ship. 1 sailor was rescued. The other 5 crew members on board were declared dead on Saturday after days of searching. A first-of-its-kind investigation about older adults who are homeless on the streets of San Diego was released today. KPBS reporter Melissa May has details on what it reveals.
All my resources were gone, and I ended up homeless, sleeping in my car.
Sylvia Martinez used to hold a corporate job. She became homeless in 2010 after being misdiagnosed with a brain tumor.
There's a lot of people over 55. There's no resources unless you have a job. There's no resources. And if you don't have a job, you end up homeless. And that's what happened to me.
The facts in this study are sobering, but the solutions are achievable.
Paul Downey is the president and CEO of Serving Seniors, a nonprofit focused on assisting low-income and homeless older adults. Today, they released a report on the needs of older adults who are homeless or at risk of losing their homes.
Over a quarter, about 2,000 of the folks on the streets in San Diego are over the age of 55. 88% of them became homeless here in San Diego, and 43% of them are homeless for the first time.
Their study found many homeless seniors are on the streets because they can no longer afford a roof over their heads.
Most of the seniors that are out there on the streets are economically homeless. Things like illness, rising housing prices, loss of a job, or caregiving expenses for a spouse contribute to a financial collapse.
Downey says the lines between housing and homelessness is a very thin one.
More than half of those interviewed report an additional $300 a month or less was the difference between being housed and unhoused.
The report includes a list of potential solutions, including providing more resources for seniors at homeless shelters, and even finding a way to provide that extra $300 a month. County officials say the report gives them particular insight into the community and can help guide and focus their efforts to help older people who are homeless, like Martinez, who now has a roof over her head.
We don't all have mental health. We don't all have substance abuse. We don't all lack skills to get a job. It's the homelessness.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
San Diego code enforcement officers are now issuing violations to businesses whose parklets violate city and state regulations. Roughly 435 temporary outdoor permits were issued, allowing businesses to operate in the street and on sidewalks when indoor service was not allowed under coronavirus restrictions. The City Council voted to extend the outdoor permits through July of 2022, but said owners must comply with city regulations. After 2 deadline extensions today, code enforcement officers started inspections.
Have their reflectors, and it doesn't come out into the traffic lane. It's staying in the area, it's staying in front of the business, so it's good.
Business owners have 30 days to comply with things like moving off red curbs or removing outdoor roofs. Otherwise, they face a hearing where they could be fined up to $100 per day per violation. Now, that is down from the original threat of $1,000 per violation per day. San Diego's Climate Action Plan set ambitious goals to cut back on driving. The city has also endorsed Vision Zero, a movement to eliminate traffic deaths by making streets safer for pedestrians and cyclists. But KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says 2 recent street projects show the city often works against its own objectives.
It's a sunny afternoon, and crowds of high schoolers are hanging out at Fair at 44, a brightly decorated plaza on El Cajon Boulevard between City Heights and Talmadge. In the corner sits Ana Rivera's food truck, Jibaritos de la Isla. Its Puerto Rican and Dominican cuisine is a hit with the neighbors.
Our specialty is a plantain sandwich. It's basically 2 fried plantains, lettuce, tomato, mayo, and then your choice of steak or pork.
Business has been good for Rivera in the 5 months she's been at this location, but sometimes she fears for her customers' safety. While they sit and enjoy their food, cars zoom by on El Cajon Boulevard, one of San Diego's deadliest streets. Drivers often speed and run red lights. Rivera has seen some horrific crashes. In one of them,
the car was just totally flipped upside down. My husband had to pull the passengers out of the vehicle. There was another accident that a car, hit another car, and it ended up in the middle in the median, and the driver was ejected through the passenger door.
Given how dangerous El Cajon Boulevard is already, Rivera was shocked when she learned the city is planning on widening it further. It wants to shrink the size of the plaza and add a new right turn lane for motorists.
I thought it was a little crazy. I thought it would add a lot to the chaos that's already here.
City traffic engineers are forcing the developer of an affordable housing project on this block to pay for the widening. It's another example of how car-centric planning has quietly continued in San Diego. That's despite pledges from city leaders to make streets safer and more pedestrian, bike, and transit-oriented. There's another example across town in Bay Park.
One thing that you notice when you start to kind of walk along Marina Boulevard is that the sidewalks are not actually complete.
Whitney Beard lives near a trolley station due to open in November. She says there aren't enough ways for pedestrians and bikes to safely access the station, so she's been organizing her neighbors to demand better.
We spent $2 billion on this trolley, and I mean, if you just kind of walk this road, it's just, there's literally no access if you're not in a car. It's very dangerous. And it's not good for the community.
During construction of the trolley station, Marina Boulevard was narrowed from 4 lanes to 2. Beard says she liked it better that way.
Traffic got a little congested for like 2 weeks. And then after that, it was pretty smooth sailing, but the traffic was much slower. So you wouldn't go above 35 miles an hour on this road when it was 1 lane each way.
But when construction ended, the road was widened again. Now drivers treat it like a freeway.
Adding an extra lane, expanding the road capacity is oftentimes the first instinct of a traffic engineer.
Colin Parent is executive director for the nonprofit think tank Circulate San Diego. He says the new goals set out in the city's climate action plan should have changed this driving first mindset. But just making a plan isn't enough.
They're not self-executing policies. The city has to have, or any city has to have, implementing policies that are representative of the values that are in those larger documents. And so for streets, that's things like complete streets plans or the road design manuals, those sorts of things. And a lot of cities, including San Diego, haven't caught up to the value statements that their elected officials have signed on to.
Back where Ana Rivera's food truck sits, the construction to further widen El Cajon Boulevard hasn't started yet. It's scheduled to begin as soon as next month. But Rivera hasn't given up hope that Mayor Todd Gloria will intervene.
It's something that we're not going to be able to reverse in the future. And I think the traffic is so bad right now. We need to be thinking more how we can reduce the traffic and reduce the speed of the cars. I think adding a lane isn't going to do that. I think adding a lane is just going to add more traffic, more cars, more accidents.
The mayor has not yet said whether he'll stop the widening, but his press secretary sent KPBS the following statement. Like other issues we've inherited from the prior administration, the city needs to look back at this project and make sure it is consistent with Mayor Gloria's goals. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Firefighters are hoping to have a brush fire near Rainbow fully contained later today. Crews made good progress on the 54-acre Aruba Fire, bringing containment up to 75% at last check. The fire started on Sunday afternoon and forced people living near Rainbow Crest Road and Mortigan Lane to evacuate. Those orders were lifted yesterday. More evacuation orders have been lifted as firefighters make progress battling the Caldora Fire near Lake Tahoe. Brittany Hope shows us the mixed emotions for people returning to one neighborhood for the first time in weeks.
Hi, Deanne. How are you, sweetie?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Reuniting with old neighbors.
My house is intact.
Oh, wow.
I'm just amazed. Somebody up there must like us.
Hey. Well, welcome. Good to meet you, brother.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm glad your house is safe.
And shaking hands with new ones. Rob and some others in Grizzly Flats were finally able to return home after being evacuated by the Caldora Fire for more than 3 weeks.
It was really kind of tugging on the heartstrings driving up to our house and watching friends, elderly people who lost their home, and you know for a fact that they probably don't have fire insurance.
This block still standing.
And here we came running as fast as we could up because we wanted to see that our home is still here and our good neighbors, that they're still here.
Happy to be home, but hurting for others just down the road who have no home to go back to.
Unfortunately, it takes a situation like this to really pull someone out of their front door and over to their neighbor's house. But we're gonna rebuild. We're going to help others rebuild.
A few streets over.
Being a survivor is just a blessing. There's no better blessing than being a survivor.
John and Laura Randall say they had been preparing for a fire like this since they moved in 1991.
This tank is what I attribute to always saving our property, because we kept it full at all times.
When they were told to evacuate Grizzly Flats 22 days ago. John used 140 feet of hoses to drench his home in water. His son's family, just a few miles away, saw a different fate. They say his home is destroyed.
He had just bought it 3 years ago, re-roofed it, repainted it,
Gravel,
cleaned up around it, everything you think of.
New air conditioner in it.
A fire like this is so unpredictable where it's going to go, and he just happened to be in its path, and thank God him and the kids were out of there and the wife.
With the uncertainty ahead, these survivors tell us they will be strong together.
Unfortunately, it took this fire to bring a lot of people together in the community, but I know that Grizzly Flat's strong, and it's going to remain Grizzly Flat strong, and it's going to be stronger than ever.
Get ready for a hot several days ahead. Heat advisories have been extended. Temperatures are going to remain above average here really all across the board. And we're going to be watching the possibility of some monsoon moisture to come back in here for the later part of the work week. Heat advisories were expected to expire on Monday evening, and now they've been extended all the way through Friday evening, mainly for the mountains and higher terrain where temperatures are certainly going to be well above what is average for this time of year. But really, everyone is going to be seeing the heat here over these next couple of days. Temperatures as we head into tonight falling back down to 64 degrees over in Oceanside, 63 in Escondido, getting down to 70 degrees in San Diego. The heat continues, expands here all the way through tomorrow. So through Wednesday, high pressure stays locked on in, and that means that the monsoon moisture likely won't start to get back into the picture here until we get into Thursday. And with little or no rainfall in the forecast, it does bring an elevated risk for wildfire danger. Your highs here on Wednesday getting up to 107 in Borrego Springs, 78 in Mount Laguna, El Cajon getting up into the upper 80s. And then Thursday again, some of that monsoon moisture finds a little bit of a weakness in that area of high pressure and starts to creep back in to southern portions of California. Near the coast, temperatures go from the upper 70s on Wednesday into the low to mid 80s by the time we get into Friday and Saturday. So some heat certainly on the way there. Further inland, temperatures generally warming up from the upper 80s into the low to mid 90s also towards the end of the work week and moving into the weekend. Staying dry here, but there is a little bit of wet weather possible in the mountains here on Thursday. A stray shower in the forecast. Otherwise, it's a mixture of sunshine and clouds, and temperatures certainly heat up as we head into the end of the weekend. Look at that, mid 80s there in the mountains. And in the deserts, we also certainly heat up here. There's a possibility for a stray shower or thunderstorm on Thursday, and then temperatures race into the 105 to 110 degree range for this weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the Taliban announces a new government amid protests and an economic crisis. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
President Joe Biden visited the Northeast today after historic flooding killed dozens of people. This as recovery efforts continue in Louisiana following Hurricane Ida's destruction. Here's reporter Daryl Forges.
Thank God you're safe.
President Biden touring the destruction Ida left behind in New York and New Jersey. His second trip to an area impacted by Ida since it ravaged the East Coast.
The losses that we witnessed today are profound. Dozens of lost lives, homes destroyed.
The remnants of Hurricane Ida delivered tornadoes, torrential rainfall, and deadly flash flooding last week, killing more than 50 people in the Northeast.
My thoughts are with all those families affected by the storms and all those families who lost someone they loved.
Officials in the region believe the road to recovery will be long and challenging.
I think, sadly, probably months more likely than weeks. And that's the message we've been giving to folks, that this is going to be a long road, but we're going to stand with them at every step of the way.
Louisianans also facing a long road ahead. The situation for many remains dire after Ida made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, bringing winds that wreaked havoc across the state. Hundreds of thousands are still without power, some dealing with much more.
Some of the hardest things I've had to deal with is looking people in the face who just have lost everything.
Now the president warning that the impacts of recent severe weather nationwide mean climate change requires immediate attention.
I think the country's finally acknowledged the fact that global warming is real and it's moving at an incredible pace, and we've got to do something about it.
Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
Hundreds of medical journals have published a united call for action on climate change. The editorial points to established links between the climate crisis and a wide range of adverse health effects over the past 20 years. It warns, quote, the continued loss of biodiversity risks catastrophic harm to health that will be impossible to reverse. The editorial says the current climate action focused on trading fossil fuels for cleaner, renewable energy is not enough.
The sorts of things that will be needed to bring that temperature rise below the 1.5 degrees centigrade will be things like rethinking our cities, our housing, our transport, rethinking how health systems work, rethinking how financial markets work, and really radically changing the way in which we live.
Meanwhile, environmental groups are pushing lawmakers to include billions of dollars in climate measures as part of the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package. They're asking for up to $746 billion for provisions, including tax credits for clean energy and electric vehicles. The groups also want Congress to impose fees on the oil and gas industry and end fossil fuel subsidies. They estimate that could raise up to $55 billion over 10 years. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.